Here we are, back again for another 100 days. Again, the idea was created by Luke the Notable. This is 300 days in Minecraft Hardcore. Yep, so here we go. Yay. Alright, even though there's a ton of other things I could be doing, we're immediately going back to the end for a couple days of Ender travel so that way I can get an Elytra. Eventually, I did end up finding an end city, but it did not have a ship. I did like raiding it though, because I could finally get my hands on some shulker shells, which were very nice. I found another end city, and this one was really big, but still didn't have a ship. So I ended up raiding it, but still, like I said, no ship. Eventually, I did find an end city with a ship, so I immediately ran up to grab the Elytra. Luckily, as soon as I got the Elytra, I had stocked up on the rockets in my ender chest. I also had a Unbreaking 3 and Mending book in there, so I could immediately enchant my Elytra and travel back home. And as soon as I got back home, I decided that it's time for a new project. So it's time to get netherite. I'm trying to do this before the 1.20 update, because in the 1.20 update, you need extra things so that way you can make your diamond tools netherite. If I do it now, that's less resources I have to waste, and I can just start making everything netherite. After another day of netherite mining, I ended up getting 2 more ancient debris. Today I added some items to the auto sorting system, mostly items that I was going to encounter while I was mining for netherite, things like blackstone, netherrack, and magma, so I added those in. Then I made 3 full shulker boxes of white beds so that way I didn't have to keep coming back to the base whenever I needed more beds for netherite mining. After a full day of netherite mining, I ended up only getting 11 pieces of ancient debris, which isn't bad, but I decided to go home after that. While I was trying to find my way home, I found a bastion, and I thought that would be fun to raid, so I decided to raid it. This was incredibly dangerous, as I was very unprepared, and was getting destroyed by the hoglins who kept just throwing me up in the air. And eventually, I landed on the side of the building, almost falling to my death, and falling in a pit of lava instead. So yes, I don't recommend doing this without a plan. Now, after raiding the bastion, I did get another piece of ancient debris, which is nice, but I did lose where the portal was. So I spent most of the day just trying to figure out where it was, and I ended up flying back, and the day was over. Today, I just started chopping down trees and clearing out land, as I'd have a big project I would want to start on in a couple days. Today, I decided to start flattening out all of the land that I was going to need for future projects. This isn't the project that I was going to do today, but I have some projects coming up that I might need more flat land for. Today I finally decided to start the project. The project is going to be extending the roof of my villager trading hall building. I think that it's just a bit too low, so I'm going to raise it all the way up to be average height about with the rest of my compound. So that way, when I move the floor and have dirt covering half of it, you can still see the top sticking out and the entire building doesn't get engulfed with dirt when I level everything out. After taking off the roof, I had to start shrinking the inside of the building, because the way I built it, half of the villager trading hall actually goes in deeper into the wall, which makes the entire thing a little bit weird with the actual ceiling of the building. So I have to shrink the inside slightly, so that way the walls actually line up. Now, because I had to move the villager trading hall's walls to fit in with the other walls, I had to also cover up my old staircase that went to the downstairs basement. So I just installed a bubble elevator so that way I could still get to the basement without any actual problems. By the nighttime, I had shrunken all the walls to the way I needed them to be, and by day 213, I had all of the walls built up to the height I needed them to, and I put the roof on. And the ceiling looks way more menacing when you just look up, because it just keeps going up and it's difficult to see the top, and it just looks cool. After taking down some walls, I decided that today was the day I was going to start working on putting in a creeper farm. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this creeper farm ever worked because it's too close to the base. If I was working farther away, then creepers would actually spawn in it, but since I'm right next to it, no creepers would ever spawn in it, but I still wasted some days setting it up, so you still get to see that. Day 215, I needed some fish to breed my cats, so I went fish hunting in the ocean. Most of today was basically just putting in a bunch of hoppers that led back to my auto sorting system, so I had to put those in. Today I chopped trees for all the trapdoors I was going to need, and then I put in the cats into the creeper farm, and it was all finished up, even though it never worked. Today I basically prepared for more netherite mining tomorrow. At the end of the day, after netherite mining, I only got 5 ancient debris, which isn't great. Alright, here's a tip for netherite mining when you're at Y13. So, when you're netherite mining, usually you will burrow yourself underneath a lava lake unless you're on a large area. I was underneath a lava lake this entire time, and since I kept going in every which direction because I kept running into lava pools, I got lost. Use other blocks that you normally wouldn't find in the nether so you can find your way out. unlike what happened to me, where I got trapped under a massive lava pool. This was very painful, and getting out was incredibly difficult. This took me over half the day just to leave the place. Now, besides the fact that I trapped myself under a lava pool, I kept finding netherite as I kept mining out of this lava pool. Every time I'd try and go in a different direction, instead of like blowing up a bed to find netherite, I would just accidentally dig into a vein of like 3 netherite. This allowed me to have the money and the resources, so that way I was able to, when I got back to my base, make everything in a full netherite. And once I got home, I got the Cover Me in Debris achievement. And since 1.20 is coming out soon, I decided that it was a perfect time to start flying to a jungle to try and find some bamboo. Now, I did find a buried treasure map, and I got a Heart of the Sea out of it. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, I had to fly back without finding a jungle. Maybe tomorrow. Today, I decided that I was going to start covering up the creeper farm. And that's all I got done today, which I don't know how that's possible because it's not that much area. While flying around, I ended up finding a jungle, which is actually really nice because it's the 1.20 update today, which means all the new stuff is added in the game, and I needed bamboo pretty badly. I did loot a jungle temple and got some new trims, but that's not the important part of this clip. Look at how nice I fly out of this jungle temple. That was clean. I found a desert well and had no clue what I was doing, so I ended up just mining up the suspicious sand that could have had something good in it. So I was flying when the chunks didn't want to load, and then I ended up running into a woodland mansion. So that's what we're going to end up looting. Now, I did almost die a couple of times, but I ended up living, barely. While opening up cages, I ended up finding some allays, which I was going to need for a later project. So I started kidnapping them, and I had to bring them all the way home. So this was going to take a while. While I was walking back, I thought I might as well just bring more animals home, so I ended up taming a dog, and he was another part of the trip I had to deal with. Since he couldn't fly, I had to make sure he get in the boat, and it was a big waste of time. But I do appreciate that I brought the dog home. Nothing really that notable for day 226, just more walking day 227. Day 228, I eventually got back, started breeding some allays, and then started customizing my armor. And now it's nice and shiny. And then I decided to set up a very suspicious looking cocoa bean farm behind a wall. Tonight I decided that the best way to spend my time was fishing. So I built myself a little fish shack right across from where my main bridge is. I installed a storage system today, so that way all the items I collect will go right past me and straight into the hoppers. I needed nautilus shells, so I just fished all day, and I only got 1 nautilus shell, so productivity. I spent all of today looking for an amethyst geode and didn't find anything, so that was a huge waste of time. Today was basically filled with chopping down trees and clearing land. Not really anything that productive, but a wandering trader came around when I was chopping trees outside, so I bought some nautilus shells from him. Now I have 6 nautilus shells. And more land flattening, day 234. While looking for another amethyst geode, I actually did end up finding one. So I ended up using my fortune pickaxe and got over 4 stacks of amethysts. Today I decided to start working on an allay storage center. The way this would work is I'd get them into a minecart, take the item from them, and then just kind of leave them sitting up on shelves. So that way, when I needed them, they're already in minecarts, so I can move them easily, and I have them all contained in one area. And the best thing to do after you finish a small project is to immediately make more work for yourself. So I started breeding the allays up and made tons more. Luckily, I got it finished the next day, so it was a pretty easy project, but very fun overall. Alright, we're digging out a big area for a new project, because it's about time that I start another project that I won't finish in these 300 days. We need blue ice, so that's all I did today, just mined a lot of ice. I'm sure you'll never guess what I'm building with this specific type of redstone circuit. And if you've never seen any of these before, then I'm building an automatic sorting system. The old one I had was too small, and there's new designs that have come out that can have single item sorters. So things like boats, swords, tools, just things that are non-stackable. And it's very nice. Now, I did not really account for that when I initially built my storage system, but with this new one, it's designed to fit that allay system into it. So that's why I've been collecting allays for these past couple days. Nothing really that notable, mostly just building, but I think I accidentally summoned a zombie horde near my village because I had to deal with this while trying to build, so yeah, that was fun. Alright, so I learned this trick recently. Basically, build your redstone on anything that isn't just dirt or stone, because that can be easily broken. Now, I'm not really too worried about breaking anything since I know the layout of my entire house basically every time I build it. I remember where most of the circuits, switches, and like pipes piping is. But I still think that it's a wise idea just in case to build everything on something that isn't dirt or stone. So, you know, it's kind of nice. But for this project, I decided that I was going to use some red wool. And off I go again to find more resources for another project, which I need to start, which is great. I just love starting projects that I never finish and then starting more projects that I never finish. And if you're asking what I was trying to get, it was vines. It's just vines. I need moss stone bird. Nothing that productive. I just had to figure out why redstone didn't want a redstone, and I never figured it out. So I had to use a different method than the slab method where the redstone goes in between. See, most people start their morning by like eating something. Nah, I woke up and decided today I was going to dig a tunnel to my storage system, aka where the other switches for the house lights. And yeah, all morning I was just digging there, so that was a fun project to deal with. Today I got the system that would send the items up into the auto sorter, all finished. Nothing notable or interesting. Don't you love when you're working and then a creeper shows up and blows a hole in your wall and ruins some of your redstone? It's just a fun time overall. So yeah, that's what I spent cleaning up, but that hole in the wall will become important later. Alright, so that hole in the wall I decided to turn into the sewer system. The sewer system is going to contain hoppers, redstone lines that need to travel across the base, and just other things in general. Just because instead of having them scattered around, possibly running into them, I think that it's an easier solution to have them all contained in one like sewer type tunnel that can go under the entire base. I think that's just more convenient than having a bunch of little different lines that can hit while digging. Now, you didn't see it, but most of these nights I had to deal with phantoms and creepers. Those were the main issues I had to worry about. So I just remembered that cats can be used to stop creepers and phantoms. So I brought a bunch of cats over so that way they could deal with my problem. And just as I wanted, the cats worked the exact way that I needed. They repelled phantoms all night and the creepers got nowhere close to me. Today I got all of the spruce items mapped out in the sorting system, so that way I could just throw any spruce item into the sorting system and it wouldn't be an issue. Today I put in the first section of chests so that way I could start sorting some of the spruce items. And that's all I did today. These are not very productive days because this work is hard and there's not too much to talk about with it. So I got all of the items put in, but apparently a repeater was broken, which basically broke the entire system because one hopper wasn't sorting properly. Instead, all the items were just going through that and not going through the proper areas where they needed to be sorted. So that was a fun thing to fix. Or just putting chests in today. Today I started digging at the area where a new pipeline would go so that way I could get the iron from the iron farm into my new storage system instead of my old one. Alright, pipeline's finished up. Time to dig the sewer. Alright, that's the iron system finished up. Now it's time that I can start working on the actual sewer going to the other side of the base. Just more sewer making today. Nothing really that fun. One more day of tunneling and then we'll be able to be done. Alright, now I can safely walk from one side of the base to the other without being attacked by anything. Today I built a nice little area where I could store all the essential things that I was going to need at my new storage system. Things like chests, furnaces, and other things like that. So yeah, that's what I spent the day doing. I built a system today that allowed me to instantly get whatever shulker bucks I wanted from the top row of my little storage area by just pressing a button, and then a piston would activate and it'd give me the shulker bucks. I finally put a ceiling on so that way the phantoms would leave me alone. If you have phantoms harassing you, just put a ceiling on or get some cats. It's so nice. Alright, I got the last section of item sorter finished up, and I put in andesite, gravel, and sand as the last couple of things. Realizing at the end of these 300 days that I eventually had to kill the wither, I was going to make a beacon, and I realized, wow, I have nowhere to put it. So, I realized that the hill that was right next to all of my farms needed to be cleared out, because that'd be basically the middle of my entire base. So, if I put the beacons there, I should get coverage in most areas. Also, this is a really good excuse to start flattening out the area. Alright, we finished flattening, now I have to lower my entire roof by 1 block because I decided to make it 1 block just a bit too tall. So now I have to shorten the entire thing again. Whoop-de-doo. So that way, any sugarcane that comes up the bubble elevator that would normally go into the system is now just going to come out of pipe and then end up inside of my new storage system. This wasn't really that difficult of a project, but it was actually a pretty fun one to work on. Today I got the new pipeline finished, so that way all the sugarcane would go immediately into the hoppers that transfer all of my stuff over to into the new base, the same hoppers that are being used for my current iron farm. I need to clean up all of the leftover redstone from the old storage system, so I cleaned that up today. I started to try finishing off some of the walls in my new storage area, just because every time I'd go in there, the mobs would try and attack me, and that got really annoying, especially when you're trying to sort through stuff or make sure everything's working properly. So I started just walling it in. 5 new chests wired up for each mob drop that I really have to worry about majorly. Rotten flesh, string, spider eyes, gunpowder, and bone. I still have to make a chest for arrows, but that's another project, and 5 more chests I'll have to deal with, so that's for later. I had to gather wood today so that way I could start boxing in my old area where all of the junk chest and redstone is, so that way no mobs can get into it, because I keep having a problem with creepers getting in there and exploding things. Time to start a new project, but before I start that, I gotta mine some cobblestone, and you'll see why in the next clip. It's an auto sorter, but first I gotta set up a rail so that way it can collect the bamboo that's gonna be produced, because this one's gonna be automatic. Let's test your Minecraft knowledge. Look at what's happening on screen right now and tell me what the issue is if I'm trying to make an auto sorter. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, you can't cook sugarcane. I meant to put bamboo there so it could be automatic, but I put sugarcane. I eventually fixed it, but that was a really stupid mistake. Alright, that's the fuel system finished. Now we just have to put the hoppers above the furnaces. Now, I did something here that you can kind of take note of if you want to build one yourself. I didn't follow the tutorial, but I knew the general concept of how this worked. So, I put a hopper minecart that rolls over all of the top of the furnaces, but you need hoppers going into the furnaces to put materials into them in the top slot. So just note that for the next auto smelter you make. System all finished, so now the entire auto sorter works, and I made it output into my auto sorting system. So that's pretty nice. Today I decided that I was going to clean up all the chests and things, and today I put an actual entrance onto the storage system, so now I can get in and out without having to break a wall. I put some lights in, and that's all I did because productivity in this series goes down every day I play longer. Alright, now that I just want to waste time at the end, we're going to be outlining a big wall that I'm going to build probably in the next however many days it takes me to build. Just building the wall. How much fun. Okay, I finished the wall. Now it's time to talk about something interesting. I moved things back and forth. How much fun. How interesting. I just moved them to my new base from my old junk storage. Yay, fun, interesting. Alright, I'm done moving stuff. Now it's time to build a control panel for all of my redstone crap. I finished the control panel, and now I have a new contraption that can break 3 shulker boxes at once, just in case I need some extra shulker boxes. So yeah, that's very nice to have. I'm now learning why people put villagers kind of far away from their base, because I put mine right next to where my storage room is, so I can hear them basically every time I need to go get something, and they're incredibly annoying and they're over flooding the room. So I'm sending some out just to be free in the wilderness. So this is an interesting project, and I ended up finding a cave that I just put some beds in and decided to call Villager Town. Villager Town is just going to contain all of the villagers that basically ran when I opened the gates and let them out. It is kind of annoying though, because I have to defend them from zombies, so that way the entire town doesn't go extinct on the first night, but I'm sure they're fine. There's also another minor issue. I can't really go there if they're ever being attacked because an iron golem will spawn. And the iron golem hates my guts and wants me dead and does too much damage for me to get really close to. So I gotta figure out some way to solve this. So I built a contraption that would capture the iron golem. He follows me, and then I built 2 pistons facing each other that would drop gravel when broken. So now I have trapped the iron golem. But this didn't solve anything because iron golems keep spawning. Last thing I'm doing is putting in a farm, and then I'm letting them fend for themselves, so hopefully they survive. 10 days left, and I'm fighting the wither on day 300, so I found a cave that I was going to do that in today. Today I built a small pumpkin farm because I'm going to need pumpkins for when I go and fight the wither. I'm going to try and use the iron golem method so that way I don't have to get my hands too dirty. I'm just wasting time at this point, so I went and found a random hill and carved my head into it, because why not? Today we're building the room that the beacon's gonna end up going in. I'm just doing the walls and the ceiling. And we got the room all finished today with all of the iron blocks I'm going to need for the beacon and the floor done. I went to go find some slime balls for a project I was going to need to do in the next however many days I do in this series. But I actually did find some remnants, so I decided that I was going to go excavate some, and I got 3 pottery shards, so that's pretty cool. And I did end up finding the swamp, and I got some slime balls. Today I was just gearing up for the wither fight by getting some milk from the cows. I'm going to try and kill 2 withers first, so let's go to the nether real quick to see if I can get some wither skulls. Only one skull. Truly sad. Look at how intense this wither fight is. It's so long and so intense. And I will say the iron golems didn't do anything, so I don't know why I even bothered wasting my time with them. And then they blocked me in right next to the explosion of the wither while I was trying to get back. But yeah, this is the entire wither fight. They really need to up him. I don't know what's different between him now and him in Bedrock, but there's got to be a little bit more challenge. Like, come on. Alright, beacon's down, and now I have haste too, so now I'm just gonna waste the last day, I guess. I wanted to make a pot for my treasure pile on the very last day, so I went out looking for some suspicious sand, and I did end up finding the pot, but I also ended up killing a drowned with a trident, and I actually did get that trident, even though I wasn't trying to, so that's cool. And with that, I think that's gonna conclude our 300 days of Minecraft Hardcore. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. The rest of the stuff generic YouTubers say. And see you later. Bye.